Hello and welcome to episode 274 of the Small and Supercharged podcast with Ria Freeman. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Small and Supercharged podcast. Today I'm talking about superpowers. No, not just normal ones. You don't have to fly. Please don't try and fly. I'm trying to think of other ones. The Hulk. I don't mean superpowers like that. I mean superpowers that are hugely underrated, that a lot of people could tap into if they tried, and that make an absolutely game-changing difference to you as a business person, to the people that you interact with, to how others see you, and to the opportunities that you get. Whether this is from a business perspective, whether this is from an influencer perspective, these are 5 underrated superpowers. There are more underrated superpowers, but I think it's quite good to keep it to shorter, punchier things. I could list a lot of underrated superpowers, but we're going to go for 5 now. We're going to go 5 underrated superpowers, and we're going to talk about these. Now, the reason I actually started thinking about this is that I put up a post on my Instagram last week. It would have been on Tip Tuesday, when I talked about things that people don't necessarily value but are absolutely game changing. And this was brought on by Your Horse Live. I hung out on the beta stand quite a lot, like deliberately, not just there causing trouble. And I was watching we were just opposite the meet and greet area. So the beta stand was diagonally opposite the Red Gorilla meet and greet area. And I was utterly blown away by a few things, actually. The influencers were all incredible. So all the fab people that came and joined me on the stage for the 3 days were absolutely brilliant. They went to the meet and greets. They met all the people. It was lovely. I know Esme's also awesome. I didn't see her because she had a meet and greet in a different area, but I have seen Esme do meet and greets before this. Esme, she's amazing. She is so good at it. Even when the queue is literally miles long, she sticks it out. She's a diamond. But I was absolutely blown away and just incredibly impressed by Ben Atkinson and Jay Hallam, and they did a meet and greet. They had an arena show. I don't know if that's the right term. They did a show, a piece, a turn, I don't know, in the arena. The bits I saw looked amazing. I was kind of wafting in and out. I saw little bits and it looked really good fun. The stands were packed. It looked amazing. And then they came and did a meet and greet. And I was on the Saturday, I think it was. I had to go and do a radio interview. And when I left, there was like a massive queue forming, a proper big queue. And I think when I came back, they were still there. And I looked at my phone and they were quarter an hour over their allocated slot. I can't remember what day it was. Anyway, but they had been there from the start together. They were taking photos. They were smiley. They were just incredible. And I was so impressed. And I don't mean this in a patronising way, but I know I do observe a lot of things online. I observe a lot of things in person. I've obviously experienced quite a lot of things and dealt with all sorts of people, from riders to people fairly high up in organisations to, through interviewing for the book, I've worked with some really impressive people, and I have been really impressed with some of them. And I just thought there's kind of threads that I'm seeing from the people I'm interviewing for the book, which is super exciting, which I'm going to talk about a lot more at different times. But I was also kind of analysing what I've been seeing a lot of recently. And I'm not saying that Ben and Jay aren't talented. They are hugely talented. And that is absolutely a superpower. But there are lots of talented people in the world and they don't operate in the same way. So then I was thinking, well, that's quite interesting. And there's when I used to work with horses properly, there was a horse on the yard that I did not get on with at all. It was a mare, which is strange because I usually get on well with mares, but still, it was a mare, and it was just not a particularly pleasant creature. It was quite talented. It had really good bloodlines, but its attitude was awful. Its attitude to work was all right sometimes. It was massively affected by hormones, but its attitude was off big time. But it had, if you looked at it on paper, you'd be like, wow, that's gonna do big things. but his attitude was just really skewed, and it wasn't consistent. It just wasn't me. And then we had another horse on the yard who was a sweet little thing. Not little, littler than the mare. Beautiful horse, but I can't quite remember how he came to his owner, but he wasn't particularly from great breeding. If my memory serves me correctly, he sort of hunted all winter, evented all summer, but he was such a little grafter. His attitude to learning was brilliant. He listened, he tried his little heart out, and I am pretty sure that horse went further than the one that was talented. And it's always struck me that I actually find that quite cool. Like, I think that's quite, I mean, obviously not for the owner of the horse that was more challenging, but isn't it cool that our attitude can outweigh talent? So even if we don't have a skill for something, the way that we view stuff and our ability to learn, our attitude towards learning, is completely game changing for the outcome. You know, you can have incredibly talented people who just don't put the graft in and achieve very little in their life. And other people that, again, you look at on paper, maybe you look at their school reports and things like that, and you think, oh, but they put the work in. So I think some of that work, some of those skills are going to be talked about today, hopefully. So yeah, we should get cracking. So the first one is professionalism. And I think that it is really important, whatever we do, that we are professional. This can be things like honouring your commitment. So you've agreed to do something for somebody and you do it. It means if you say you're going to be somewhere at a certain time, you are there for that time. Or if, you know, life conspires against you, you send a message or do something to actually explain what's going on in your world. It means that when you are in that setting, when you are on show in a professional setting that's connected to you as that professional, you know, you don't get drunk, you don't do ridiculous things, and that doesn't mean you can't be fun, it doesn't mean all these things, but you just have that professional layer underneath. And again, this isn't like having a quick glass of Prosecco with a sponsor or something. It's the people that take it too far. It's not necessarily, you know, getting wildly emotional in public. Just remove yourself from that. It's not getting into a shouting match with someone that's annoyed you. It's having that ability to smile, nod, and move on. It's just that professionalism, which is a superpower that we can all have. We can be professional in who we are, whatever we do as a job. And I think that is it's kind of, you expect it. But when you see someone that isn't behaving like that, it's like a beacon. And you think, oh gosh. And what that tends to mean is that people are just a little bit unnerved. If you're looking at it from a sort of sponsor, support, brand ambassador point of view, you kind of think, oh, interesting, might give that one a wide berth. If you're looking at it from a company point of view, you could well think the same, because we do have this knack of seeing a person that's representing a company. And even if it's a big company, we then connect our beliefs, our thoughts, what we believe that company is about to that one person, whether or not that is correct, whether or not it is indicative of the entire establishment. We do that. So we do need to, professionalism, massively underrated superpower, super important, easy to do. It's just having that voice in your head going, is this the right thing to do? And in this case of taking a breath and walking away, it's smiling and nodding when you need to. So yeah, number one, professionalism. Number two is listening. And I don't mean pretending you're listening. I don't mean listening so you can reply. It's listening to understand, which is something I've done, you know, when I was doing my ILM level 7. As a mentor particularly, you need to listen to understand. You're not listening so you can chip in. You are listening so you can completely understand the situation. And, you know, most times you're listening and you're asking further questions to draw out more information. You're not just listening to, you know, just kind of nod along and pretend that you care when you don't. When you do listen to understand, and that can then lead you to ask additional questions, people really, really feel like you care, because you do. You're giving them your time, and time is that, I've said it a load of times before, is such a valuable resource and asset, but it's overlooked. But if someone is talking to you and you are engaged with them, you're listening, you haven't got your phone out, you are looking at them, you're understanding what they're saying, you're asking further questions, it's mega. It's absolutely huge. And it's a skill that we can really develop. The ability to listen properly is a skill that does need to be developed, and it does need to be worked on, but it's something that you can consciously change. You can consciously think about, why am I doing this? What am I trying to get from this? It might also mean you're more selective with your conversations, and you realise the people that you're not that interested in. But that's kind of okay too, as long as you're professional about it, point one. But yeah, listening to understand, not just to reply. Huge superpower. The ability to listen is just underrated. All of these are underrated. Empathy, being empathetic, is another superpower. So how do other people feel? Useful thing is to try and switch yourself into that person's situation, particularly if you are looking to speak to them, tell them something perhaps that they're not going to be wild about. If you're looking at a situation and think, well, how can I make this better? Just having that ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes. Again, I'm going to refer back to Jay and Ben here, because when I was quietly observing on the side, the fact that they stayed over and above their allotted time, there wasn't anyone else after them, so it was perfectly fine. So everybody in that queue who had been queuing got to see them. I thought that demonstrated a really good level of empathy, whether it was conscious or not, because these were their fans and followers, people that really wanted to speak to them, to talk to them, have their photograph taken, have an autograph, and they put themselves out because those people had spent the time. And I put the post up on Instagram. I think both Jay and Ben replied, actually, and the responses were just lovely. That real sort of, oh, I'm just really blown away that people queue to see me. And I thought I loved that modesty as well, which probably should have been another superpower. But the being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes and understand it from their point of view makes just a huge difference in how you speak, how you think, how you operate. And it's, again, something that's really underrated, undervalued. I think these soft, in inverted commas, skills that are not, oh, well, they beat every sales target. They're not necessarily ones that you can rate against, but they can make a huge difference. Even if you beat every sales target, but actually you're a pretty awful human, you aren't professional, you don't listen, you don't care what anyone else says. Yeah, I think you could potentially be a liability in a company. As much as you could hit the targets, it doesn't make people want to get behind you and support you and collaborate with you and drive things forward. And there is a brilliant saying, which is, if you want to go quick, go alone. If you want to go fast, go together. And I think that kind of is all woven in with this. Superpower 4, being respectful. Being respectful of situations, of other people, of other people's time, energy, feelings. Even if you disagree with a point of view, there is still a way to respectfully disagree and not. Now, don't get me wrong, if someone has come up with some absolutely outrageous view, you can say, I don't agree with that, and you can move on. I'm not saying you need to agree with everything, because that's not okay either. But there are ways that you can just remove yourself from that situation and you can move on. But being respectful of people's time, of their energy, effort, everything that they've done really matters. And I've noticed with a few things I've done lately, people are turning up to things super, super late, or if people aren't bothering to turn up at all, or I had something a couple of months ago where someone had arranged a Zoom meeting with me. And when I have a meeting arranged with somebody, I put it in my diary, and that means I do not book anything else around that. And that might not seem a lot for you, but I have a fairly significant amount of one-to-one clients. I'm also supporting an association with a program they've got, and I've got a significant number of people I'm working through that. I have got the book interviews I'm doing. I have got other work I'm doing. Genuinely, some weeks I sit in the chair from the beginning of the day and I don't get up until I'm getting the kids from school, which is a horribly unhealthy way to be. And I'm not saying you should do that. I'm just emphasising that I do really have quite a jam-packed schedule. And we'd booked a call at the time to suit them, which was fine. I mean, obviously it suited me as well, otherwise I couldn't have done it. And let's say, for the sake of argument, the call was 4:30. At 3:30, they messaged me to confirm the call. I said, yeah, absolutely, I'll see you in a bit, because I was on a call, but it just came through before I got another call, if I remember rightly. I finished the call, I looked at my email, and I had another email cancelling that call, half an hour to go. Now, in half an hour, I can't book in another call. I can't do anything. I mean, I can do written work, I can do accounts, I can do other stuff. But in those prime pockets of the day, when I've got childcare or the boys are at school or something like that, I like to utilise those highly effectively, because I need to get the volume of stuff done that I need to do. And I was really cross about it. And I thought, actually, that shows no respect for my time at all. And it was kind of like, oh, sorry, I can't do that now. Okay, I'll book you in for next Friday. Well, I couldn't do next Friday because I had other commitments. And also because the person had behaved like that, I wasn't wild about moving those other commitments to be let down again. And actually, I've emailed that person now a number of times and it's just gone nowhere. And I'm really quite cross about it. So I'll be taking a different route to that situation. But still, respectful. That was not respectful. And actually, it made me think worse of the company. I'll be honest with you. I was really cross about it. Still a little bit cross. But there was just a no respect shown for my time. And I take that quite badly. So being respectful, underrated superpower. And don't get me wrong, I know things happen. But that could have been handled differently. If they'd have had some problem half an hour to go, they could have messaged and gone, I'm so sorry. I've had this family crisis. I'm going to have to shoot off. However, I would love to speak to you. I will let me know when you can do. We'll get another date in the diary as soon as possible. Please accept my apologies. I'd have been absolutely fine by that. And we'd have hopefully got some dates in, sorted it out, and this would have been just a blip. Like, I understand life happens. It was just completely unrespectful the way it was done. Disrespectful, not unrespectful. And I was really unimpressed. And point number 5 of the underrated superpower list. And I've put this in inverted commas, not that you can see this because it's a podcast. Because it's vulnerability. And I'll tell you how I view this. Now, I think a superpower is vulnerability to a point. However, I don't think you need to be putting yourself through the emotional turmoil of showing up online or doing things when you are upset, when you are very emotional, when something is very, very raw. And I don't think that necessarily vulnerability in that way is a superpower. Some people would say it was, because you can really get people behind you. You can really, you can get people highly engaged in this state. However, I don't think that's necessarily the best option on all counts. There are exceptions to the rule, but in big general terms. However, how I look at vulnerability here, and where I've put the inverted commas around, is, to me, it's showing that you are not perfect. It is showing that you are a human. It is showing that you feel and you feel things like other people do, that sometimes things don't go well, that you can have a laugh at yourself. I think showing this human side, maybe I should have put human instead of vulnerability, is really, really important. And it does allow people to warm to you. It actually makes it a lot easier for you to be you. If you're trying to be perfection all the time, it's really difficult because life is not perfect. Things happen, and if you are putting on a pretense that everything is sunshine and rainbows, it's quite difficult when things aren't, because for you particularly it feels like a crushing blow. But being human, being vulnerable, still without it damaging, without you feeling like you're bearing your soul, because I don't necessarily think that's a great idea from your point of view, from the person doing it. It feels too vulnerable. It feels too much like you're completely on show, and you don't owe anybody that. You don't know anyone to be turning up when you just feel absolutely down in the dumps and like you want to be hiding in a corner. That's not what I mean here. Maybe it should have been honesty. There are other words I should have used, perhaps. Relatability. Maybe there's more than 5. There is more than 5. But vulnerability in showing that you're human, in showing that you are not perfect. I think that is such a superpower. Whether you are putting stuff online, whether you're seeing people in real life, it just makes you a lot more human. And we all like to connect with people who are humans. It allows us to be more vulnerable, more open, more honest, because we can see ourselves or our struggle in that other person as well. And that's a really good way to connect. So they're my 5 underrated superpowers: professionalism, listening, empathy, being respectfulness, being respectful, and in inverted commas, vulnerability. And I'd love to know if you think that these are right, or what other superpowers you would add, underrated superpowers you would add in. Now, we are going to be doing another Podmas with the Masterminder. So that is going to be coming up very, very soon. And I am super excited to share all of that with you in the near future. It's going to be brilliant. It's going to be great fun. I'm excited to get those podcasts out there, those Podmases out there. And if you are looking for a Christmas present for a friend who is perhaps trying to start a small business, wants to grow their small business, is business minded, is curious about business, is an influencer, then I would recommend my best selling Small and Supercharged book. It is called Small and Supercharged, Small Steps to Supercharge Your Brand on a Budget. Easy for me to say. It's available on Amazon. It's got really good reports, which I am proper thrilled by. Some lovely people have been very kind about the book, which is lovely. I think when you write a book, it is a bit of you that goes out in that book. And then when people say they like it, it's helped them. It's really lovely. So I am delighted that people love it as much. Well, probably not as much as I do, because that would be a lot. It's got some brilliant reviews. I'm going to read you one actually. Helpful and easy to understand. It all makes so much sense. Really helpful book, and one I feel I can dip in and out of continuously, even after reading it full, to keep going back to remind myself of what I need to be doing. Lots of helpful advice to put into practice. Thank you, Lily. And Laura has said, excellent source of information. Thank you, Laura. Before spending hundreds or thousands on marketing your business, read this. The author details how to market your business in the best possible way without using unfamiliar jargon and without boring the reader, and without the need to go out of pocket in the process. It's well written, highly readable, filled with practical tips, and worth every penny. Genuinely, I don't know either of those people personally, so that's super, super lovely. Thank you very much, both of you, and anyone who's reviewed the book. If you've got the book and you'd like to give it a review, please do. It all helps people make decisions. I know when I'm looking to buy a book, I always do look at the reviews, and having had a bit of a spending spree on Amazon last night, 6 books are winging their way to me. I'm very excited. I have looked at the reviews of those before I decide which ones to buy. So it really does make a difference. If you pop onto Amazon or your Amazon account, you can go and leave a review. That would be brilliant. Let me know if you've done it. I do keep an eye on the reviews, but it's always lovely to see. And if you want to buy a brilliant gift for your friend that will keep giving, you can find it on Amazon. Thank you so, so much for listening today. It's been lovely to chat as always, and we will catch up very, very soon. Take care.